How much should you charge for FPV work? How much is a good daily rate and how much is too little? Benoit Finck goes into that with us today. We talk about rates for charging FPV work. It's pretty fantastic. Real quick, if you are watching this and you are not subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. Hit that like button, do the bell thing. It's a lot of fun. Recently, I've been doing a lot of live streams. Today, we just live streamed. The boys and I went out and live streamed our flying. And we didn't get a lot of flying in, but we had a lot of fun. Also, if you're so inclined, if you really, really like what I do, my Patreon link's in the bottom. Anyways, I appreciate every single one of you. I thank you for watching. So Benoit Finck and I sat down to talk about the way that he runs his business. Now, if you don't know Benoit Finck, he's also known as Finky. He is perhaps one of the most creative and awesome FPV cinematic pilots in the world, I would have to say. And what's interesting is that, he is an open book. He is more than willing to talk to people about what they should charge. And he's just got a lot of really common sense, good ideas. I think one of the interesting things that he really talks about during this is don't charge too little, because it actually devalues all of the work that anybody in FPV might do. Towards the end, he actually gives you you should not charge less than this. And it is a surprising number and would probably make things worth a lot of while. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoy it, and I will talk with you soon. Ladies, and welcome to the Michael Rollins Show, where today we have the one and only Benoit Finck, aka Finky. How you doing, buddy?
Good, and you?
You know what, man? As I told you, I'm better than nothing. which I guess better than nothing means I'm still alive. So I think that about captures it pretty well. Mm-hmm. So you've been busy, man.
Yeah, very, very a little too much actually. I have to learn how to say no to certain shoots and stuff because it's getting a little bit too much. But yeah. Taking measures that will prevent that in the future as well, which we can talk about.
Mm-hmm. How many, and this isn't necessarily one of the main topics, but I'm curious, how many requests a week or month do you get to do, work for someone?
I haven't really counted out how many requests I get. It's also very different from one month to another. Mm-hmm. Like there's some month where for the better half of the first month, you just nothing's happening. Like for 2 weeks, you just feel like, oh shit, everyone's forgotten about me or something. Nothing's gonna show up, and then suddenly you get booked. Like in a matter of like a week, you get booked for the whole month, and it's just a little weird sometimes how it works. Like literally, I was in England last month, and as I moved, and nothing was coming, but I had basically 2 weeks ahead planned, and I was like feeling great about it. And then one day, I just got booked for the whole month after that. So now I'm like in the middle of that month, and it's just it just came all together in like one day. So it's hard to say, but on average, I could. Oh, let me check that. Actually, I can give you an average of the ones that I do, the jobs that I do, not necessarily all the ones that I get, but I'd say it's between some shoots are also very long. Some shoots are I get for like 1 week or 2 weeks, but it would be between maybe 5 shoots on average, something like this. But that's not 5 shoot days, it's 5 shoots in general. Yeah. And then some are for several days, usually like 3, something like this. So a good month, I'm shooting for at least 15 days, maybe 20 days when it's good. Yeah.
But it's the work that you do, it's not like, does it end when you leave the set?
I mean, that's one of the things that I was really happy about in the beginning, which was, yeah, like it ends when I leave the set, but I don't think it does anymore, because now as I'm moving to something where it's a little bit more of a company than just uh, my thing, there's a lot of prep to do, and there's also a lot of building to do and testing, and so yeah, it doesn't really end when I leave the set, or at least there's like, for one day on set, there's probably 2 or 3 days of prep before that, where I show up to the location, speak
Yeah.
to the director of photography and the first AD. First AD is the first assistant director. He's in charge of the planning for the whole shoot, and he's the one deciding how many slots you get and for how long during your shoot. So you want that person to really understand the challenges of FPV and how it can I mean, it can make or break a shoot, and what kind of stuff you can get in a certain amount of time. So yeah, I do that a lot. And then there's like a little bit of like, sometimes there's like, they call me in before they even win the film. So the director will ask questions about, do you think this is doable? Do you think I can do this and that? I can write it this way. And then yeah.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's funny when you start out with, yeah, sometimes I feel like maybe people have forgotten me. Like it actually does me a little bit good to hear you say that because I'm sitting here going, man, this guy works with like brands, like giant, massive, worldwide brands, and I feel like you're everywhere, and because I feel that way sometimes, right? Like I'll reach out to somebody, I'll be like, hey, and it's not on the same scale at all. Because this isn't my job, right? But I'll reach out and be like, hey, do you think you'd like to come on the show? And I get nothing, just crickets, right? Or the worst is when I reach out and I see that they've read it and there's been no response. Like if I reach out on Facebook and it's like, there's a part of me that's like, oh man, I'm not relevant anymore. Right? And so to hear, go ahead.
Yeah. It's there's this like classic meme where it's like artists or creative people only have two moods, which is like, I'm the best in the world, or no, I'm worthless and no one knows about me. So yeah, there's like that thing. That's what happens for everyone. Everyone is doing something slightly creative, and I think you are doing something creative in the approach that you have for interviews and everything.
Yeah, it really, what I'm talking about, I think what we're talking about here really smacks of imposter syndrome, right? Where it's like, well, maybe they finally found out that I only know a few tricks and therefore I'm not really as good as everybody thinks. And it was funny because I saw a meme the other day that shows this lady sitting at the desk and she's got a thought bubble over her head and she goes, do I really even know enough to have imposter syndrome? Like imposter syndrome is pretty fantastic. Yeah, no, but I appreciate that. Thank you. Like I sometimes I don't think about this being super creative. So, all right. Well, moving into our first topic, when we talked, God, it was almost 2 years ago.
Oh,
wow, man. Cause like, I remember I reached out to you cause I had been watching some of your stuff, online. And I think that it was the skateboard video where you, I think that was one of the first Cinewhoops. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Am I wrong there?
Yeah. It's like, the Cinewhoop has just come out and I was like, this is a cool tool. I wanted to do certain things and I wanted to show these things through the longboard video, and that's what I did.
And I remember watching that and I was just blown away. And then I saw, I think the dojo, I don't know if the dojo video came out before or after that.
Yeah, after. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And at some point I was like, man, I really want to see if this guy would like to come on the show. And I reached out and I was like, there's no way he's going to want to. And then you were like, oh man, I love all your stuff. And I was like, oh, he knows, really? So it was so funny. I feel like we were like admiring each other from across the internet. One of the things you said in that interview was that has really stuck with me was you said that. And, like we were just talking about the number of jobs, you said that you at the time had set your prices and your rates such that you can pay the bills that you need to pay with just 2 shoots. And I've thought a lot about that. And one of the things I've thought about is there's obviously a thought process that went into that for you. And so I was wondering if we could kind of talk about, like, what's the thought process that goes into setting your rates, right? When you're looking at a job, when somebody says, hey, I really want you to, come work for me, how do you really decide what you're going to charge someone? Like, how do you set your prices and what things do you take into account?
Well, first of all, you have to take into account where you are. I think if you look at prices throughout the world, I mean, for FPV, it's very different. In some places where people charge more than others. And the best way to look at it is to look at how much people charge for normal drone stuff, like Inspire type of stuff. And then if you like see what a person charges on Inspire, that's kind of what you can charge for FPV with a GoPro. And then it gives you like an indicator of what you can place yourself at. And then for cinema stuff, it's even different, but we're gonna get into that in a second. And then the other way of doing it is to, if you know a few professional pilots that do FPV, you can ask them how much they charge. I think it's always good to ask people that that are either in your area or either completely in a completely different place, and kind of just share with them how much you thought you would charge, and if they think it's too much or too little. Usually it's too little. It's rarely too much that people aim to charge. But it's important to be at a certain place where you're not poaching and just like pulling everyone down by having like half price compared to everyone else. And it also helps you, like if you're on the same price, it also helps you being kind of respected by production companies. Because if you come over and you're like, oh yeah, I'd take like $200 for per day for this, they're not going to really take you seriously. First of all, you're going to be so cheap that they're not going to care whether or not you shoot during the day as well. So they're going to end up just not using you sometimes because they just don't care. One thing that I've realized is that you have to be expensive enough so that it kind of stings a little if they're not using you, because so many times you go to a shoot and they just kind of forget about FPV. They just put it aside because they're like, oh no, we don't have time. We have to shoot with this big expensive thing because we spend so much money on this Russian arm. The Russian arm is like this big arm on like a car, and it costs like $100 grand a day or something to shoot. So it's like, oh, we spend so much money on this, so we have to use it, and then they just forget about you. So if you charge enough, at some point they're going to be like, wait, we have to make this work as well.
I mean, if you, and there's an interesting, like there's all this talk of, like I've heard before, and specifically like my background is in, mobile tech, right? And everybody used to get super pissed off at Apple because they didn't release a budget phone. And Apple's stance always seemed to be, we don't have to, right? Like our value is built in. We can charge what we're worth. And I think it's interesting where your statement is like, yeah, like they need to think of you as that arm, right? Like you're just as expensive as that thing. They need to get as much use out of you as they do that thing.
Well, I'm definitely not as expensive as a Russian arm.
A
5-people team with an expensive card is like 300 grand of equipment. It's very different, but yeah. No, they need to think of you as like an integral part of the team that has a value. But yeah, like so these are like the main things. So yeah, you need to know your worth, and then you also need to look at how many, like realistically, how many gigs you're going to do during the very first month, and because you're not going to be able to change your pricing very often and keep increasing it as you go. So you have to kind of start right, because if you don't, then in the future it's going to be harder for you. Um, so you have to look at it and be like, okay, maybe I can get 2 shoots. That's why, I mean, that's how my explanation last time came up. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, realistically, I can get 2 shoots per month. It's not necessarily just a 1 day shoot, but I can get, yeah, maybe like 3-4 days of work, and it will work out for me. Um, so that's how I kind of priced myself, based also on knowing what the market was like, knowing how much people were charging for Inspire, um, how much and how much other people were charging, and that's kind of how I looked at it. And also you can look at how much other departments are charging, like other like how much is like a camera guy getting paid, and how unique is his skill compared to what you're doing. And a really good example is Steadicams. Steadicam operators, it's a pretty unique skill. It's very physical. It requires gear that's worth about like $16,000.
And these are the guys, they've got like the
They've got
giant
like this
pack
arm.
on, they've got this arm, and they move this thing around, and it looks
Yeah.
like it weighs like 150 pounds.
Yeah. Usually it weighs it weighs about 80 pounds. Yeah. And with the camera on. Yeah. And yeah, like it's pretty heavy, but like you can move with it, and like you can so these guys, they have like a certain pricing, and people understand that it comes with the gear as well. And so yeah, you can compare yourself to a Steadicam operator in a lot of ways, because it's a unique skill. Not a lot of people are doing it. It takes training. It's physically draining to do FPV. It's very, very like tiring on set. And yeah, like you can just look at that and kind of place yourself around that area, I would say. Yeah.
It's I like the idea that you touch on training and equipment, and because it really is a specialized skill. And this is like I said, not in the same class, but I've been helping out a buddy of mine who's been filming this series of music videos here locally, and so I was like, yeah, I'll come do some drone work for you. It's not a big deal. And I brought my son with me, and as we were and he flew with me, right? Because he's a very competent pilot. He's actually better than I am, but don't tell him I said that. And we're leaving, and I pulled out 50 and just handed it to him. And we'd only been there for like 3 hours, right? And so for a 13-year-old to be handed $50 for 3 hours of work, he was like, "What? Why are you giving me this?" And I was like, "Because you earned it." He's like, "But Dad, we just went out and flew for 3 hours. I mean, it wasn't a big deal." And I was like, "How much time have you put into building this skill? You are worth it." Like there was nobody else on that field that we were in on the first shoot, which was in a field, that could have done what you did besides me. And I could make a case that because he's different than me, he probably did something differently than I would have. And it was really shocking and I really was appreciative that I could do that for him, because, it taught him in the first time that he has a skill and it's worthwhile. But it is, I think that's what a lot of folks, they tend to overlook the skill that they have, right? It's almost like, well, I could do it, anybody else could do it.
Yeah,
but you put all the time into it.
That's what you think, or like, but you're doing this for fun on your spare time. So it's
Right.
not worth as much.
It
No,
doesn't
it
have value.
is. It's very different. First of all, having fun and going out to fly, then doing what you're gonna do on set, and yeah, like it's one of the things I think is to look at the gear that you bring, and another way that I thought about it when I started was like I need to be ready to lose a drone on set, to risk a full drone to just lose it completely and still be happy with what I have at the end of the day. So I wanted to break even if I lost the whole quad. So because the gear that you bring is worth something, and you have to be able to risk it. Like I've been in situations where, for example, I had to shoot like a bunch of basketball players jumping in a pool while like dunking in a like basket, and like the drone was getting splashed all the time, and it actually ended up in the water twice. But I didn't care because, and one of them burnt. Like one of them actually burnt as it came out of the water, and I didn't care as much because I knew that at the end of the day, it was going to be a little bit of time. I mean, it's going to be time to fix it, and it's going to be some equipment, like an FC. Like I lost basically all the electronics on that one though, because it was kissed and it just burnt. And so I lost an FC and an ASC. The motors were shot as well.
They don't motors in water.
Yeah,
you can use them a little bit, but
no, but like when the ESC burns, sometimes they keep spinning, or they just and they just start burning as well. Like so that's what happened on that one. So yeah, I lost all the electronics and I had to fix it. So fixing it can take 4 hours or even more than that. So I was like, okay, like this is my time. It's worth something. It's time that I can spend working on something else. So yeah, and that's kind of how I looked at it for the first thing. And then the Cinelifter stuff came about, and then now I'm flying cameras that are worth $6,000.
Is that the red on the Sicaria?
Yeah, the red on the Sicaria. So the Sicaria is worth quite a bit of money as well. It's worth around 1,000 if you build it yourself, 4,000 if you buy it built, plus 6,000. So plus, like, then you've got the lens on top, which is like 1,000.
So you got at least 10,000 in the air.
You at least got 10 grand in the air. So
dude, how do you not shake while you're flying that thing?
I shake.
Or do you?
Yeah.
I can't even anyways, go on. I'm not gonna stop.
I just shake. Like it's like it's 10 grand. So I thought about it and I was like, I can't charge people 10 grand per day, because that would be like too much.
Yeah.
So that means I'm gonna have to adjust my flying a little bit. And the way I looked at it was like, okay, now I have this new skill. How many days can I realistically use it without breaking it, and still be happy with it? And like basically, I knew it had to be more expensive than what I was charging for the GoPro stuff, obviously. And the GoPro stuff is still included in my package for sim lifting, because sometimes I can be like, oh no, I'm not. I mean, sometimes they want to go through a hole that's this big, and I'm like, I can't. The camera is not big enough for that. So, I mean, it's not small enough for that. So I'm gonna use a smaller drone. But yeah, like so I still include it in the thing, but then I was like, okay, so maybe if I do it for like 5 days and it's still fine, I'm happy with it. So then I just broke it down into like 5 days, and I was like, okay, that would mean that my rate is roughly double what I'm charging for the normal stuff, and I still bring the normal stuff on as well. And I was like, okay, cool. I also and yeah, that's how I got it. Also, something to take into account when you doing your GoPro rate is the fact that you're gonna real steady this footage, and if you work good on a good day, you can take like a half day real steady, just putting things through real steady. Like it's gonna take you 4 hours. So how, like, you need to take that into account when you set up your day rate, because it's not just one day of work.
Right.
It's actually a day of work plus 4 hours at the end of the day, if they want it now, or maybe the next day if you have a little bit of time and you can just do it after. So that's something extra that you need to take into account while making your rate. And yeah, like things are
Which by the way is also a specialized skill.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Like the real steady work, it's not like you just, pick that up and go, oh, this is fine.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's something that, I mean, it's getting easier. I think since the Hero 8, and you don't have to place the keyframe, the key points and stuff. It's a little bit easier, but still, like you will have your input on the FOV that you want to have. If you drag the thing all the way to the left or to the right, or if you want it to look a certain way. I still don't let anyone do my real steady for me. Even if I have an assistant on set and they know how to do it, I'm like, no, this is like the thing that I do, or at least I'll do it once, look how it looks, and then I'm like, okay, set it to this much every time. But yeah, like that's also a skill. So yeah, but basically, because I mean, I think people want to know what it's like. I'm not going to give you an exact rate because rates change all the time. But if you charge in any less than $1,000 a day, you're doing it. I mean, it's not enough, basically. And people like me can charge multiple thousands per day. And some people might find it a little bit outrageous and say, oh, you're just doing something for fun and you charging like this much. But the amount of work that it is, like sometimes I'm actually I mean, I realize it because it's so much stress that some people will think that you can do it just for fun and it will be fine and it's easy. But if you want to do it for the rest of your life, or at least for a long time, it's going to be very different than just doing it once and have a quick money grab and just, if you want things to last, that's how much you need to charge, because sometimes you get less work, sometimes you get more work, and then you've got taxes and you've got a whole bunch of things that when you look at it from a day rate perspective looks huge, but then if you look at it after taxes, after what you can actually get out as a salary, and if you start building up a company and employing people, it's even less. And this is all the kinds of things that you need to look at, because in the future the clients are still going to expect the same prices, because they look at it through the lens of, this is how much this is costing me, and not how much this is how much the cost for this company is. They don't have time to calculate everything for you, so you need to set up a price. And if you've given them a certain price, you can't just go back and charge double on the next day, because you've realized that you have to pay taxes, you have to pay for an office, you have to pay employees, your gear, or all kinds of stuff. Also, there's different types of jobs. Music videos, for example, usually charge less. Personally, I've decided to do something which is for music videos, I would charge 40% less than on my advertising jobs, because it's just they don't have money, and usually it's more of a creative outlet that you want to put out, and it's like a good opportunity to just try things out. or maybe work with a cool director. And also, but like still I will get like a creative input on, and I would decide based on the artist. I won't just get any artist and go like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I look into the artists and the music before I even decide whether or not I'm doing a music video. And then for films in France, they don't have money. They have less money than advertising. So you kind of have to, if you want to work in the film industry, you also kind of have to make an effort. And it's more of a thing that you do for fun, for the beauty of it, than something to make money. But yeah.
What how do you plan for unforeseens, right? Like, I mean, we talked 2 years ago, you were really starting this thing in earnest, and then about a year ago a pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Like how is that kind of, and that's like one of the most extreme gotchas ever, in a sense. At least in modern times. But how do you build robustness into what you do? Like, what happened to your business when the pandemic started? Did you have months where you didn't have any income?
I didn't work for 3 months because it was lockdown. So literally for 3 months, I couldn't do anything, which was very draining on me because like a lot of people can work from home and just kind of like do Skype and
It's
be fine. And they have
it's hard to fly a drone over Skype.
Yeah, exactly. and yeah, like they have something to do. But for me, it was like, oh, now there's nothing. Like you have to find something to keep yourself busy and everything. But that was more like how I lived through the lockdown. But yeah, it was also just something that you need to plan. Now I usually have like a cash reserve of about 6 months at any given time, so that I know that whatever happens, I can live through 6 months and still pay for everything. And now I have more things to pay for than I used to before the pandemic, because now I have an office. I have potentially, like very soon, I'm going to have an employee that I just hired. That's an exclusive, by the way. I didn't,
Woo! You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. No, it's a really, really great name in the FPV community. So it's Nicolas Gaillard.
Is he Nico FPV?
No, he's Nicolas Gaillard. He's just he's the guy that came up with a video saying this is my first FPV video, and everyone went like, "What?" And Johnny mentioned him, and like a bunch of people. And
homeboy, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's like extremely talented, and he's got a really good framing vision, and I'm really happy that I can have him on board with me. Dude, and awesome. He's like a full-time employee, and in France, like it means that he can't get fired. It's like it's a really good thing for him. I try to give him the best deal as possible because I really want to have him with me, while still having like something healthy for the company. But yeah, like it's a risk, and yeah, like if tomorrow we can't work for another 6 months or something, I still have to pay him. I still owe every bit of money that we signed for per month, and I can cut my salary, but I can't cut his, and I still have to pay no matter what happens, and I still have to pay for my office as well that I just got. I'm gonna have to pay for gear and etc. So yeah.
Well, that's Finky. That was Benoit. Man, just a fantastic guy. I really appreciate having him on the show. The next episode, we're going to talk about how do you build relationships? How do you get the jobs in the first place? And it's really interesting. Benoit gives a master class in relationship management, and I'm not even sure that it's It's just what he does naturally. I really appreciated it, and I appreciated that there were some similarities to how I do things as well. It is very much worth the listen, and I hope that you enjoy it. Talk to you soon.